Committee will come to order. Members, Chair apologizes for the delay. We've been working through a number of amendments this afternoon. Myself, along with the Speaker and Representative Reeves, have been discussing those amendments, and so now we are here in the committee, but the committee is not in possession of all of the amendments, and Central staff tells the chair that they need a little bit more time in order to get those finalized so that they can be presented in the committee today. And of course, the more those amendments we can take up in this committee today, the less hectic tomorrow will be, because we're going to have a full day, which I'll get to just momentarily. So what we're going to do is put the committee at ease until 5:45, and at that point we'll go ahead and start. Chair does not anticipate all the amendments being in the committee's possession by 5:45, but if we start then, by the time we get into the amendment process, Chair anticipates having those amendments without unreasonable delay anyway. While we're waiting, Chair will go ahead and announce the schedule for the week, at least as best as the Chair understands it right now. So today, of course, this will be the only committee meeting, no floor votes today for the House. On Tuesday, tomorrow, Chair anticipates having a Rules Committee meeting at 9 or 10 a.m. So just watch your inbox. Part of that depends on what we get done in here today, because, of course, Central staff has to deal with the Senate as well, and they'll be doing committee in session, so they can only be one place at one time. So rules at 9 or 10 a.m. tomorrow. The House will then have session at 2 p.m. tomorrow, and both in that rules meeting and in session at 2 p.m. we'll be taking up just the State House map. When we finish session tomorrow on the House floor, at some point thereafter, we will have another House Redistricting committee, and that will be for the purpose of taking up the congressional and state Senate maps. And then on Wednesday, of course, we'll come back and we'll have rules likely at some point that morning, and then we will have session at some point after rules, and that'll be to take up the congressional and state Senate maps. So as the chair learns more about the specifics of the schedule, we'll be glad to send those things out. So for now, what we will do is just put the committee at ease until 5:45, again, for purposes of allowing Central staff to complete the various members' amendments that they wish to put forth in this committee today. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, the committee will be at ease until 5:45.
I'd like to call the House Committee on Redistricting back to order. Apologize for the delay. We had a few things we had to work out. I'm not sure if Chairman Hall, if he had a chance to introduce our Sergeant-at-Arms, I'll do that. Our Sergeant-at-Arms today are Terry McGraw, Mike Galloway, Nina Legg, did I get that right? Nina, I'm sorry. David Layton, Bill Riley, and Stafford Young. Welcome you back, and at this point in time, I will turn it over to the Chairman of the committee for the presentation of the bill, which is properly before you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, we're still waiting on a number of those amendments, and so we'll take those up momentarily in terms of the order that we have them or get them. And I understand Representative Harrison's amendment is going to wait until potentially the floor tomorrow so that we can have some time to complete that and take a look at it. So I'll go ahead and go into the State House map, which of course is the map that we're here today tonight now to vote on. Members, as I mentioned last week, the House hired Ohio-based consultant Blake Springhetti to draw the State House map that you see before you. He previously worked for the Ohio legislature, and he's got prior experience in redistricting in the state of Ohio. I want to again emphasize, of course, that no racial data was used in the creation of this plan. No members who are running for re-election to the House are double bunked. Incumbency was not considered for those members who have announced that they are either retiring from the House or running for another office. Nearly 90% of all the municipalities that are located within a county in this map are kept whole under this plan, and many of the remaining municipal splits are due to precinct lines or involve small portions of municipal territory, often due to satellite annexation. Overall, this plan splits only 6 VTDs. Which is fewer VTD splits than the 2022 House plan that's in existence right now. Overall, our overarching goal in construction of this House plan was to create Republican-leaning districts where possible while avoiding double bunking incumbent House members and following traditional redistricting principles. Mr. Chair, I'm going to go through the groupings at this point and just give a general overview, and then I'll stand for questions. As to the grouping of Currituck, Dare, Hyde, Terrell, Perquimans, Chowan, Washington, Beaufort, Pamlico, in this grouping, we kept all the precincts whole, only one county, Dare County, and that's split due to population requirements. The grouping is drawn here to create 2 Republican-leaning House districts. Grouping of Gates, Pasquotank, Camden, and Hertford. That's not changed. That district is a county grouping, of course, so can't be changed and was not changed. Same thing for the grouping of Halifax, Warren, Northampton. Same thing for the grouping of Edgecombe, Martin, and Bertie. Same for Sampson and Bladen, and again, same for Lenoir, Green, and Jones. All of those groupings are actually districts, and so they were not changed. On Pitt County, the grouping of Pitt, this district splits no precincts, and it keeps the campus of East Carolina University whole. The district is drawn to recreate a Republican-leaning House district based in the southern and eastern part of Pitt County, and one Democratic-leaning House district based in the northern western part of Pitt County. For the grouping of Craven and Carteret, this grouping is drawn to create 2 Republican-leaning House districts. There's only one split precinct in this grouping, which is mathematically required and therefore unavoidable, which is in Havelock. Grouping of Onslow and Pender. This grouping splits no precincts. It's compact and is drawn to create 3 Republican-leaning House districts. Grouping of Brunswick and New Hanover. This grouping splits only one precinct in Brunswick County. It draws one Wilmington-based district and 3 Republican-leaning districts, 2 of which are based in Brunswick County and 1 of which is based in northern New Hanover County. Grouping of Columbus and Robeson. The grouping draws one Robeson County district, one Columbus County-based district. That concludes some of northern and eastern Robeson County. Grouping splits no precincts, and both of those districts would be Republican-leaning districts. Grouping of Scotland and Hoke. The district is a county grouping, and of course, again, was not changed. The grouping of Duplin and Wayne. This grouping splits only one precinct and is reasonably visually compact. The grouping is drawn to create 2 Republican-leaning House districts. District 10 is based in northern Wayne County and extends southward District 4 is based in Duplin County and extends upward into central Wayne County. On the grouping of Wilson and Nash, Wilson County and Nash County are both almost exactly the right size for a district in terms of equal population requirements, but not quite. As such, one precinct from eastern Nash County balances the population for both. None of the precincts are split and creates two Republican-leaning districts. The grouping of Cumberland, no precincts are split in this grouping. The grouping is drawn to create three Democratic-leaning House districts, and the grouping is drawn to create one more so rural Republican-leaning House district, which is based in eastern Cumberland County. Grouping of Harnett and Johnston. In this grouping, we drew to create four Republican-leaning House districts with no split precincts. District 6 is based in western Harnett. District 26 covers the northern part of Johnston County, adjoining Wake County. District 28 remains in southern Johnston County, and District 53 includes portions of both eastern Harnett County and northwestern Johnston County. For the grouping of Franklin, Granville, and Vance, in this grouping, we did not split any precincts, and the grouping splits neither home county of either incumbent member. This grouping is drawn to create one Republican-leaning district based in Franklin County, as well as one competitive district, which is based in Granville County. For Wake County, in that grouping, we created two competitive Republican-leaning districts, one in the southeastern part of the county and one in the northern part of the county. There is only one split precinct in the county, and no incumbents are double bunked. The districts are reasonably visually compact. The municipalities Fuquay-Varina, Wendell, Nightdale, Holly Springs, as well as other smaller municipalities, have clearly defined districts that represent their interest in this plan. The grouping of Durham and Person, this is unchanged from the 2022 plan in accordance with member feedback from those districts. Grouping of Orange and Caswell, grouping was drawn to be reasonably visually compact with no split precincts. Grouping of Alamance and Alamance County, our goal was to draw two reasonably visually compact Republican-leaning districts with no split precincts. That is what is reflected in District 63 and 64 in Alamance County. Groupings of Randolph, Chatham, Lee, Moore, and Richmond. In that grouping, the minimum number of counties are split and no precincts are split. This grouping is drawn to create four Republican-leaning House districts and is drawn to reflect one competitive Democrat-leaning district. In Guilford, we aim to draw two Republican-leaning districts based in the eastern and western portions of the county. We split no precincts, and the districts are reasonably compact. Rockingham County is a grouping, and of course it has not changed. For Forsyth and Stokes, that grouping was drawn to create three Republican-leaning House districts with no split precincts and no members double bunked. District 75 is based in eastern Forsyth County. District 74 is based in western Forsyth County, and District 91 is based in Stokes County and extends southward into central Forsyth County. The grouping of Davidson was drawn to reflect two reasonably visually compact Republican-leaning districts. In the grouping of Yadkin, Davie, Rowan, and Cabarrus, the grouping splits only one precinct in the Mount Pleasant area. Representative Kristen Baker has announced that she's not running for re-election to the State House, so her incumbency, of course, was not considered. The grouping is drawn to create Republican-leaning districts from all five of the districts of the grouping and complies with traditional redistricting principles. The grouping of Stanley and Montgomery, that grouping is a two-county self-contained grouping, and of course that is unchanged. The grouping of Surrey, Wilkes, and Alexander, the grouping splits no precincts. The districts are reasonably visibly compact. It's obviously a very markedly Republican area of the state and probably impossible to draw it otherwise. The grouping of Catawba and Iredell, it contains no split precincts and four reasonably visually compact districts, again in a very Republican area of the state. The grouping of Lincoln County, it's its own district and will remain the same. Grouping of Union and Anson, the grouping splits no precincts and includes three reasonably visually compact districts, and this grouping was drawn to create three Republican-leaning House districts. In Mecklenburg, which is another grouping, the grouping splits only one precinct. Representative Wesley Harris has announced that he's running for state treasurer, so his incumbency, of course, was not considered. This grouping was drawn to create 2 Republican-leaning districts in both, one in the northern end of the county and one in the southeastern end of Mecklenburg County. The grouping of Gaston, Cleveland, Rutherford, Polk, Henderson, McDowell, Yancey, Mitchell, and Avery. It splits no precincts. It contains reasonably visually compact districts. It's drawn to create 7 Republican-leaning House districts. Grouping of Caldwell, Watauga, Ashe, and Allegheny. The grouping splits no precincts, and the districts are reasonably visually compact. It's drawn to create 2 Republican-leaning districts. Grouping of Burke, that is a district unto itself, and of course was not changed. Grouping of Buncombe. Grouping splits no precincts, and it's drawn to create 1 Democratic-leaning House district based in Asheville, 1 Democratic-leaning House district based in the southern and eastern parts of Buncombe County, and 1 Republican-leaning district based in northern and western parts of Buncombe County. The 3 districts are reasonably visually compact. The grouping of Haywood and Madison, that district is a county grouping and was not changed. The grouping of Swain, Jackson, and Transylvania, the district there is a county grouping and it was not changed. And the grouping for Macon, Clay, Cherokee, and Graham, that district is a county grouping and was not changed. Mr. Chairman, with that, I'm glad to stand for questions, or if the chair wants to move on to amendments, we can do that.
Gentleman stands for questions. Any members wishing to be recognized? Representative Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chair Hall. You were going fast. I think I missed the county grouping that appears to include Gaston all the way up, and if I'm looking at this right, to Yancey, Mitchell, Avery. Is that the one where you 7 GOP seats? Did I hear that right? And is that grouping unchanged from the previous 2021 map?
So I think you are talking about the grouping of Gaston, Cleveland, Rutherford, Polk, Henderson, McDowell, Yancey, Mitchell, and Avery. Mm-hmm. Again, what I said there was there were no split precincts and it also contains reasonably visually compact districts. It's drawn to create 7 Republican-leaning House districts. I believe there were minor changes, but those were member-requested changes that they would have presented to Mr. Springhetti. It's largely the same.
Thank you. May I ask a little bit about the process? Is this the appropriate time to do that?
Certainly.
Thank you. Chair Hall, I appreciate your sharing the instructions that were sent to Mr. Springhetti. And I was comparing them, I raised this issue at the last meeting, I was comparing them with the 2021 criteria that we used. And there were some differences, and I'm trying to determine how y'all reached the conclusion to. So, for instance, I believe I asked about this at the last meeting about the compactness score, because it seemed pretty important in 2021 to use the REOC and the Polsby-Popper methods for measuring compactness, but that was not the case here. Is that accurate? That you did not use those measures?
That's right. We didn't mandate any of those specific measurements, and in prior draws of the map, we were operating under a faulty legal theory about political data not being able to be used, and the courts had at least mandated, at least the 3-judge panel had mandated at that point that we needed to use some form of criteria, and so those measurements were used. But you and I have been doing this committee a long time, and you've been doing it longer than I have. At some point on those measurements, you sort of get to a point of diminishing returns. And so at the end of the day, you can often look at the districts themselves and determine whether they would have a reasonably good score in either one of those metrics.
I appreciate that. Follow up? Can I be recognized for a few? Okay, thank you. So I also wanted to ask about the municipal boundaries, because that, I don't actually see it listed on the instructions that went to Mr. Springhetti, and I know you referenced this in my inquiry about this last week, but this map right here, the 898, it splits 65 municipalities with populations, and the previous map that we used in 2022 split only 51, and that's quite a disparity, and I know that you're happy that you only split 6 precincts, but I think splitting municipalities is an important issue as well. Could you speak to that?
Well, I would just say therein lies the problem. Some people believe it's better not to split VTDs. Others believe it's better not to split municipalities. Still others say that it's better to have a better Polsby proper or REOC score. And those things are often in conflict with one another. And unfortunately, we can't have it all in these maps because precincts are often oddly shaped. Towns and cities are often oddly shaped, as are counties, and the criteria that the lady mentioned can be in conflict with one another.
I appreciate that, and follow up additionally on the criteria issue. So also, I know that we also spoke about this at the last committee meeting, the communities of interest, which has been something that the public comments repeatedly speak about the need to keep communities of interest intact. I see that that incumbent House members' local knowledge of communities of interest could be considered, may be considered. But that sort of leaves out the minority party, I think, because I'm not sure if they weren't consulted on these issues. But if you could speak to the communities of interest and how you all dealt with that in the draw.
Sure. Well, as to members of the minority party, the input is being taken. As you know, you and I have been even talking today about your district and your grouping in Guilford County and potential changes that might be made. I heard from a number of other Democratic members, some of whom I've been talking to today, about changing their districts around. And I anticipate that some of those changes are going to be accepted. And it's just like any other bill in this body. Folks who want to be involved in a given bill typically are able to be involved at some level. Doesn't mean that we always get everything that we want in a bill, but it means we can be involved in the process. I have not and would not tell any member of this body, whether they're a Republican, Democrat, or unaffiliated, or any other political party, that they could not be involved in the process or that I would not talk to them. I'll always listen to the proposed amendments. And as to the Republican members, of course, many of them called me eager to be involved in the process, and so they all had a chance to meet with Mr. Springatti in drawing those districts. And of course, I knew that once the maps come out and become public, many members of the Democratic side would have proposed amendments to their districts or to other districts in other parts of the state, and that those would be considered at this time. And also, I also note, we have not limited amendments in any way using any criteria that you've decided that you wanted to use. We have not limited members to, even any the requirements about, say, population. Maybe you have a theory, Representative Harrison, that the plus or minus 5% is not what the Constitution requires, and you want to present a map that doesn't fall within those guidelines. I would have to oppose that because I believe the law requires that sort of thing. But we've put no constraints at all on amendments that members can give, and I have been, along with the Speaker and my colleagues, especially in House leadership, open to listening to the proposed amendments from both sides of the aisle. And so that is how this process has worked and how it's going to continue to work. And I hope we can continue to work on your amendment in Guilford County together.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to follow up on another issue, and that relates to the Voting Rights Act. We received a letter from a bunch of advocates that was dated October 3rd that talked about redistricting criteria and specifically referenced the need to comply with the Voting Rights Act post-Milligan. And we know that the North Carolina Supreme Court in Stevenson said to ensure compliance with federal law, legislative districts required by the Voting Rights Act shall be formed prior to the creation of non-VRA districts. So I know I asked this last week, and I'm repeating myself here. Did you all engage in that draw of the VRA districts prior to drawing the other non-VRA districts?
So we've complied with the law in this process. The way we conducted the draw was to not use race at all in drawing the State House map. And of course, as I said in committee last week, so that members could be sure that these maps meet legal requirements, we directed the nonpartisan central staff to send out racial data on the map, and that has been out in the public now for a number of days. Legal counsel has seen that data, and by all accounts that I have heard, it appears that there are no VRA required districts in this State House map. So we have complied with the law in the map that you see before you.
Follow-up? Thank you for your indulgence. But no racially polarized voting study was done. Is that accurate?
Well, there have been in this state racially polarized voting studies done in the past throughout the history of litigation of North Carolina redistricting. A number of those studies have taken place. I think most recently in some of the 2021 litigation, I believe. And to my knowledge, all of those studies and the testimony of experts, the balance of that indicates that there is no racially polarized voting in North Carolina.
Thank you. Follow-up to that, we received yesterday a letter from the Southern Coalition for Social Justice on the very point, referencing Jingles and Milligan, and it appears from this letter that this redraw, and especially that they specifically focused on the Senate because there was a compressed time allotted in terms of trying to analyze the whole state. I don't think anyone had time, but they focused on northeastern North Carolina on the Senate race and the Senate districts, and they conclude that the Jingles framework, the criteria were met. They ran a racially polarized voting analysis, shows that they meet the criteria, that they vote as they constitute a majority in a single-member district, that they politically cohesive, and that the white majority votes sufficiently as a bloc to enable it to defeat the minority's preferred candidates. They found that, and I think it was 2 Senate districts, and I know that's not the House map, but they haven't had a chance to perform such an analysis on the whole state. And I'm concerned that once again we are in violation of the Voting Rights Act, and which was reiterated in Milligan just this year. And gosh, we spent a lot of taxpayer money defending what many feel are unconstitutional maps. So I just want to raise that issue again. I'll be running an amendment to that issue tomorrow. Don't want to take the committee's time today to do it, and plus it's not quite ready. But I just continue to be concerned that we seem to be ignoring the Voting Rights Act requirements and recent Supreme Court decision on that. And I'm going to back off for now and defer to another committee member. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if I just may briefly respond.
You may, sir.
And as to the letter the lady mentioned from the outside group, I've not had a chance to study it myself, but I've spoken to some who have, and as I understand the lady's comments are correct, it was not dealing with the State House map, mainly dealing with the Senate map. And so, one, I would say that you have to take that up with the senators. I didn't play any role in drawing their map. And 2, I can only assume that the Southern Coalition for Social Justice agrees that the House map before us doesn't have any of those issues because they're not included in the analysis that they've put forth. And I've still, at this point, still yet to receive any analysis that would indicate any VRA districts are required in the State House map for North Carolina. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. You're recognized for follow-up.
Thank you. I just, I believe that the letter specifically stated that they didn't have time to analyze the racially polarized voting in that proposed House districts, which is why they just sent this that applied to the Senate. So to respond to that, it wasn't a conclusion that there wasn't any. They just, in fact, they said that it should not be, this letter cannot and should not be read as an indication that there are no VRA concerns elsewhere in the maps under consideration. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you. May I ask one more question?
You may.
Chair Hall, did the taxpayers pay for Mr. Springhetti's services?
I believe outside legal counsel has paid for the expert, but I'm glad to get the lady that information to the extent I'm able to do so.
Others wishing to propound questions to the chair that is presenting? Seeing none. Do we have our First Amendment ready? Committee to stand at ease. Representative Hawkins, are you? Okay. Okay, does every member have the copy? And who's presenting the amendment? Okay. Representative Hawkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you have the amendment in front of you, and I'll make this one easy. This is related to the Chatham and Randolph grouping. Specifically, it's just asking and moving to amend this bill back to the 2022 drawing, and it's working on the VTDLB and ST, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
Any question for the maker of the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, if I may
You're recognized, sir.
speak to the amendment. If I may ask Representative Hawkins just a series of quick questions.
You are recognized for a series of quick questions and quick answers.
All right, great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Hawkins, was any racial data used in creating this amendment?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And second, does the amendment pose any VRA or constitutional concerns?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And does the gentleman know off the top of his head if any of the other members that are affected by this change, if they are okay with it?
Yes, in consultation with.
Okay. And I'll just say, members of the committee, my understanding is that the other members of this grouping are okay with this as well. And in this, if I may speak to the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
You're recognized.
And members, this amendment, of course, affects District 54, and the way that it's drawn in the original map is still probably a lean Democratic district that would be very difficult for Republicans to win anyway. So in a good faith effort and in deference to the minority leader, I'm going to ask the committee to vote yes and adopt the amendment that's before the committee.
Any others wishing to speak on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, if we may take a recorded vote on it, I think folks may want that anyway.
Okay, we can do that for sure. No others wishing to speak. We'll have you talk about roll call vote. Yeah, we'll ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Representatives Brockman, Representative Brockman, Representative Carney,
Yes.
Representative Carney, aye. Representative Dixon, Representative Dixon, aye. Representative Fontenot, Representative Fontenot, Representative Hardister, Representative Hardister, aye. Representative Harrison, Representative Harrison, aye. Representative Hastings, Representative Hastings, aye. Representative Hawkins,
Aye.
Representative Hawkins, aye. Representative Humphrey, Representative Humphrey, aye. Representative Abe Jones,
Aye.
Representative Abe Jones, aye. Representative B. Jones, Representative Brendan Jones, Representative Lowry,
Aye.
Representative Lowry, aye. Representative Mills,
Aye.
Representative Mills, aye. Representative Reeves, Representative Reeves, aye. Representative Warren, Representative Warren, aye. Representative Bell,
Aye.
Representative Bell, aye. Representative Sane,
Aye.
Representative Sane, aye. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Torbett,
Aye.
Representative Torbett, aye. Representative Destin Hall,
Aye.
Representative Hall, aye.
With a vote of 17-0, the motion does carry. Next amendment. Did each member of the committee get a copy? Seeing that, it's HCC-3. You have in your paperwork there, and I believe Representative Carney is going to present this amendment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee and Chairman, this is simply to revert the district numbers in Mecklenburg County to reflect the current law. No line changes nor populations have changed in this. It's just simply reverting the numbers back to the current law.
Chairman Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something Representative Carney and I spoke about last week, and understand members like to keep the numbers the same because their constituents come to understand what that number is, and members come to be in that district for some time and be associated with that number. So I'm glad to support this amendment. Please vote yes.
Any others wishing to speak on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote on this as well. The clerk will read the roll.
Representative Brockman. Representative Brockman. Representative Carney.
Aye.
Representative Carney, aye. Representative Dixon. Aye. Representative Dixon, aye. Representative Fontenot. Representative Fontenot. Representative Hardister. Representative Hardister. Representative Harrison. Aye. Representative Harrison, aye. Representative Hastings. Aye. Representative Hastings, aye. Representative Hawkins.
Aye.
Representative Hawkins, aye. Representative Humphrey. Aye. Representative Humphrey, aye. Representative Abe Jones.
Aye.
Representative Abe Jones, aye. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Lowry.
Aye.
Representative Lowry, aye. Representative Mills.
Aye.
Representative Mills, aye. Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves, aye. Representative Warren. Representative Warren, aye. Representative Bell. Representative Bell, aye. Representative Sane.
Aye.
Representative Sane, aye. Representative Stevens. Aye. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Torbett.
Aye.
Representative Torbett, aye. Representative Hall.
Aye.
Representative Hall, aye.
Madam Chair, or sorry, not Madam Chair, this is Madam Person calling the roll.
Representative Hardister, you're recognized to report your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just stepping into the room. I'd like to vote aye.
Representative Hardister, aye.
With 17 in the affirmative and none in the negative, the motion does carry. We're passing out the next amendment. Appears everyone has received it at this point. I'll give you a second to look at it. And then Representative Carney, are you presenting this amendment as well?
I am, sir.
Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, this is another request of reverting the district numbers to reflect the current law. Again, no line changes, no population change, just reverting the numbers.
You've heard the explanation. Representative Hall, you wish to speak to that as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And for the same reasons as the prior amendment, that is a member request to change these, I would ask you to vote yes on the amendment.
The clerk will call the roll.
Representative Brockman. Representative Brockman. Representative Carney.
Aye.
Representative Carney, aye. Representative Dixon. Aye. Representative Dixon, aye. Representative Fontenot. Representative Fontenot. Representative Hardister. Representative Hardister, aye. Representative Harrison. Representative Harrison, aye. Representative Hastings. Representative Hastings, aye. Representative Hawkins.
Aye.
Representative Hawkins, aye. Representative Humphrey. Representative Humphrey. Representative Humphrey, aye. Representative Abe Jones.
Aye.
Representative Abe Jones, aye. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Lowry.
Aye.
Representative Lowry, aye. Representative Mills.
Aye.
Representative Mills, aye. Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves, aye. Representative Warren. Representative Warren, aye. Representative Bell. Representative Bell, aye. Representative Sane.
Aye.
Representative Sane, aye. Representative Stevens. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Torbett.
Aye.
Representative Torbett, aye. Representative Hall.
Aye.
Representative Hall, aye.
With 17 voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion does carry. The next amendment is being passed out to you. We'll give it just a second.
I think it's number in this one too.
All right, looks like everyone has a copy of the amendment, and I believe that Representative Reeves is going to present. Is that correct, sir? That is correct. You are recognized. Been waiting all night for this.
I've been waiting all year to get recognized. Thank you. I would just say with this particular amendment, as you see, it doesn't change anything about the partisan makeup of any of the districts. It moves a couple of the precincts around at the request of the members of the Wake delegation. All have been checked with. Nobody has any issues with it. And we just ask that the amendment be accepted and supported.
You've heard the explanation by Representative Reeves. Representative Hall, would you like to speak to the amendment?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just ask Representative Reeves a series of quick questions.
You're recognized for a series of quick questions, and he is recognized for a series of quick answers.
Representative Reeves, was any racial data used in creating this amendment?
Not at all.
And Representative Reeves, does the amendment pose any VRA or constitutional concerns?
Not at all.
And I believe you said, I want to make sure I understand, all the members whose districts are changing in this particular grouping, they're fine with those changes?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Members, I would ask you to support this amendment.
Any others wishing to speak to the amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Brockman. Representative Brockman. Representative Carney.
Aye.
Representative Carney, aye. Representative Dixon. Aye. Representative Dixon, aye. Representative Fontenot. Representative Fontenot. Representative Hardister. Representative Hardister, aye. Representative Harrison. Representative Harrison, aye. Representative Hastings. Representative Hastings, aye. Representative Hawkins.
Aye.
Representative Hawkins, aye. Representative Humphrey. Representative Humphrey. Representative Humphrey, aye. Representative Abe Jones.
Aye.
Representative Abe Jones, aye. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Lowry.
Aye.
Representative Lowry, aye. Representative Mills.
Aye.
Representative Mills, aye. Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves, aye. Representative Warren.
Aye.
Representative Warren, aye. Representative Bell. Aye. Representative Bell, aye. Representative Sane.
Aye.
Representative Sane, aye. Representative Stevens. Aye. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Torbett.
Aye.
Representative Torbett, aye. Representative Hall. Aye. Representative Hall, aye.
With 17 voting in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, the motion does carry. Now we are back on the bill. I do not have any other amendments before us. Anyone wishing to speak to the bill? Representative Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, with all due respect, I just need to state what I'm reading in the analyses that are coming from those who are familiar with this process. That these proposed maps are more gerrymandered and less responsive to changes in voting patterns than even the 2021 maps that were struck down by the courts. And one of the basic principles of a functioning democracy is when the electorate changes its political opinion, this change should be reflected in the election's outcome. And what the Duke mathematicians found that they are even more extreme and less responsive to changes in the votes. And just, for example, with all due respect, the Republicans can expect to continue to win supermajorities even when the Democrats win more than 50% of the vote statewide. They can maintain that supermajority when winning just 48% statewide. Democrats would need 54% to win a simple majority, not a supermajority. I know that we now can't really take into account partisanship when we're talking about these gerrymanders, but it's certainly something to think about because these maps are not going to reflect the electorate of North Carolina, and I just feel like that's very unfortunate. And one, I think, shortcoming of this entire process, and I know you all spent a lot of time on this, is the lack of transparency and the lack of public input. I've raised this point in the last meeting. We had, I think, 63 public hearings in the 2011 redraw. We had 14 in the 2021 redraw, and we had 3 here. None after the maps were out. Limited opportunity for public comment, and the open public hearings were in fairly remote locations and not great hours for people who had a working schedule. So I think I haven't been able to make it through all the public comments because they're just dozens and dozens of pages. But what I am reading is a really strong preference for a very public, transparent process, opportunity to comment on the maps once they've been drawn, and that is missing here. I feel like we can do better. I know, Chair Hall, you were very proud of the fact that the 2021 process was transparent, and I just wish we could have followed suit in this as well, because I think we are getting ready to enact maps that do not reflect the public will and are going to really disappoint more than half the state. I wish we could do better. I'll refrain from more comments, and I'll save those for the floor, but I just needed to make those for the record in the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Harrison. Representative Hawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I submitted an amendment, and I do believe that it's available for us to consider.
Committee will stand at recess for just a moment.
Yes, sir.
I think we have that ready just in a moment. Thank you. Okay, to the committee, particularly those that are online, this is being uploaded to your documents there online, so please stand by for just a moment. Members, the documents should be available online to you. The chair will ask if anyone joining the committee via WebEx, if they are not seeing the documents, please speak up now. Hearing none, we will proceed. Representative Hawkins, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This change in the Cumberland grouping is a six precinct change. There are no changes in splitting VTDs, no partisan leaning changes, and is within the population deviation, and all members of that delegation have been consulted about these changes. And I'll stand for any questions.
You've heard the explanation. The member stands for any questions. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just a series of quick questions.
Representative Hall, you are recognized for a series of quick questions, and Representative Hawkins, you're recognized for a series of quick answers.
Representative Hawkins, was any racial data used in creating the amendment?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And does the amendment pose any VRA or constitutional concerns?
No, Mr. Chairman.
And I believe I heard you right, but I want to make sure that all the members affected by this change, they want to have the change that's in your amendment. Is that
Yes,
right?
sir. Correct.
Thank you, sir. Members, I'd ask that you support the amendment.
Any others wishing to speak on the amendment? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Representative Brockman. Representative Brockman. Representative Carney.
Aye.
Representative Carney, aye. Representative Dixon. Aye. Representative Dixon, aye. Representative Fontenot. Representative Fontenot. Representative Hardister. Aye. Representative Hardister, aye. Representative Harrison. Aye. Representative Harrison, aye. Representative Hastings. Aye. Representative Hastings, aye. Representative Hawkins.
Aye.
Representative Hawkins, aye. Representative Humphrey. Representative Humphrey, aye. Representative Abe Jones.
Aye.
Representative Abe Jones, aye. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Lowry.
Aye.
Representative Lowry, aye. Representative Mills.
Aye.
Representative Mills, aye. Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves, aye. Representative Warren.
Aye.
Representative Warren, aye. Representative Bell. Aye. Representative Bell, aye. Representative Sane.
Aye.
Representative Sane, aye. Representative Stevens. Aye. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Torbett.
Aye.
Representative Torbett, aye. Representative Hall.
Aye.
Representative Hall, aye.
With 17 voting in favor of the motion and 0 in the negative, the motion does carry. We are back on the bill. Anyone wishing to speak on the bill? Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I actually just want to ask a couple of questions of Chair Hall that I think will clarify some things. That they're going to be questions I know I'm going to get at some point. It'd be better to hear it from him.
Very good. You are recognized for a series of questions, and Representative Hall, you're recognized for a series of answers.
Thank you. Representative Hall, I think it's fair to say that obviously there's disagreement about how this process ought to go according to Stevenson and according to what some of us believe about the law. Would that be fair to say?
Well, I think we agree generally what the law is. Perhaps we agree on the application of what that law is. I mean, as to the Stevenson criteria and looking at VRA districts first, that, of course, supposes that you have to draw a VRA district. And I won't repeat, again, what I told Representative Harrison earlier, but for the same reasons, we believe that the law does not require any VRA districts in this instance. And so then it would be improper to use racial data in drawing.
And part of that reasoning would be that, in your opinion, there hasn't been any evidence of racial polarization, but I believe you interpret the racial polarization studies as needing to show racial polarization across the state. Is that fair?
Well, so obviously, we rely on counsel, as both sides do in these cases, and what we're looking for across the state is legally significant, racially polarized voting. And as I understand it, and I'm certainly not one of those folks, as I don't think either of us are, who do those studies, I think in case after case, when plaintiffs have tried to put forth evidence of legally significant racially polarized voting, whether locally or statewide, that has been found not to be the case.
All right. If there were evidence of it locally, would you feel that would be enough to require the drawing of VRA districts?
Well, so I don't want to comment on, I've not read every bit of the case law, so I don't want to commit to, what one of those cases might require. But I'll say this, if the law required us to draw a VRA district, we would absolutely do that.
All right. And then that gets us to partisan gerrymandering. And is it fair to say that, in your opinion, partisan gerrymandering is completely allowed, so there's no reason not to do it?
So both the U.S. Supreme Court and the North Carolina Supreme Court have said that election data is a traditional redistricting principle that may be used, and indeed it's been used in this country since its founding. It's been used in other countries before the founding of this country. And so, yes, I believe the law allows for that. And in my opinion, there's really no other way to do it. It's impossible to say that you're not going to consider politics at all, because even if you're not trying to do that, I mean, every time you draw a line on these maps, that is a political decision one way or the other, whether intentional or not. We've tried in the past to draw things without election data. We've done different processes because of courts and other reasons. We've had these different processes, but I mean, at the end of the day, even if you have a so-called nonpartisan commission, which I don't believe exists, every time those folks they draw a map, even if you can somehow find a group of people who don't have any partisan bent in their own mind, every time they draw a line, it is a partisan decision. And so to answer your question, it's absolutely permissible under the law, and it is basically in the history of this country, election data results have been frequently used to draw groupings, districts.
All right. And finally, I would say that last cycle, we were able to come to an agreement on maps. And was it your intent at that time, when we came to the agreement on the maps and voted on those maps remain in place for the remainder of the decade?
Well, I obviously disagreed with the Supreme Court's decision at the time that, of course, put us in the spot where we were at the time in terms of in my opinion, the erroneous interpretation of our state constitution. But as always in these cases, we're going to follow the law, as we'll always do. Now, I certainly hoped at the time that the Supreme Court would see its error and would end up changing that decision. And over time, the folks of the state got to vote on the Supreme Court. The composition changed. And, of course, they overturned that district. But, of course, had the law, in my opinion, not be cleaned up and clarified and really rectified, those districts would have stayed in place for the rest of the decade.
All right. No further questions. I'll just be asked to be heard at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Any others wishing to speak, to be recognized? Seeing none, a motion would be in order for a favorable report to House Bill 898 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill, with a serial referral to rules and with leave for legislative analysis to make technical changes. That would be in order. And Representative Hall, is that a motion you'd like to make, sir?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
The chair accepts the motion.
Mr. Chair,
You're recognized.
yeah, and I actually wanted to
second?
debate. I appreciate the offer to second it.
I thought you were going to second that.
Now,
over
normally
there.
I would. Anything for you.
Representative Reeves is recognized.
All right, and I would just say, and that was why I asked questions, because I didn't want to misspeak on anybody's behalf. Where I think we fundamentally are is this. I believe our process was better before. I believe that the more open the process, the more people have faith in the process. And I think faith in the process is more important than partisanship or anything else of that sort. I can understand when there are disagreements as to application of law. In my mind, when you look at what the Constitution is to do, I think ultimately you always err on the side of the Constitution protecting its people. I do believe that have things been done in the past that I would have disagreed with then? Yes. You'll hear people talk about this was done before, that was done before. We're brand new. I don't think that anybody denies the fact that we have the right as a body right now to change all of this and to do this differently. And what I would emphasize is that the maps that we agreed on last biennium ended up in the Republican supermajority. I don't know that you can ask for much more than that if you're in the majority. If you guys would grant us maps with a supermajority, I think I could stop right there at 72. But that being said, what is most important is that people have faith in the process. And my concern as we go forward is going to be how people feel about the process that we went through and how people feel about how the Constitution and how the interpretation of that Constitution protects those in the greatest minority. And minority isn't about party, it is about representation in this building. And I think there are tons of factors that add to a lack of representation for people in this building. One of the factors that we can control would be how we draw these maps. And so I respect the authority that the majority party feels it has under this. I respect whatever interpretation the courts might have. But what I do feel is that Republican courts and Democratic courts have both felt that we've got to do better at different times. The Stevenson court was a Republican court. The court that ruled on the maps before was a Democratic court, but I think all of them agree with their core principles that we've got to do better about protecting voters. So my issue at this time, and my issue will remain, that I think we've just got to do better, because the more partisan this process becomes, the more choked out that you're going to see voices of people who just want to live here and just want to be happy here and just want to raise their families. I would only respectfully disagree with one point that Chairman Hall said, and we've had this discussion before, and I understand. I think being in this building, it does make you think that people are going to be political no matter what you do. And I understand that. But it's my honest feeling in my heart, and I think when you do polls and things of that sort, a lot of people don't even know who we are, and they don't care about Republican and Democrat until we put it in front of their faces. If you allow them to have their own Sunday dinners and their own discussions, and they don't get things thrown in front of their faces by media and the attempt to get clicks, they don't want a partisan world. And so I hope that at some point we can move to a better system, a better situation, and less partisanism. And I would say publicly that if I'm still in the building and have the opportunity to make that choice, that is a choice I would make. Because I think it is less about keeping any party in power and it's more about trying to make sure that people are heard. And I think if people are heard, they have faith in government. They have faith in government. That's how it works. So I would respectfully disagree with some things that are said, but that is my 2 cents, and I appreciate you letting me put it up.
Thank you, Representative Reeves. Before we proceed with the motion that's before us, any others wishing to speak? Hearing none, I'll restate the motion from Representative Hall. The motion was for favorable report to HB 898 as amended, rolled into a new PCS, unfavorable to the original bill, with a serial referral to rules and with leave for legislative analysis to make technical changes. And the chair will ask for a roll call vote on this as well. Clerk will call the roll.
Representative Brockman. Representative Brockman. Representative Carney.
No.
Representative Carney, no. Representative Dixon.
Aye.
Representative Dixon, aye. Representative Fontenot. Representative Fontenot. Representative Hardister.
Aye.
Representative Hardister, aye. Representative Harrison. Representative Harrison, aye. Oh. Representative Harrison, no. Representative Hastings. Representative Hastings. Aye. Representative Hastings, aye. Representative Hawkins.
No.
Representative Hawkins, no. Representative Humphrey. Aye. Representative Humphrey, aye. Representative Abe Jones.
No.
Representative Abe Jones, no. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Brendan Jones. Representative Lowry.
Aye.
Representative Lowry, aye. Representative Mills.
Aye.
Representative Mills, aye. Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves, no. Representative Warren.
Aye.
Representative Warren, aye. Representative Bell. Representative Bell, aye. Representative Sane.
Aye.
Representative Sane, aye. Representative Stevens. Aye. Representative Stevens, aye. Representative Torbett.
Aye.
Representative Torbett, aye. Representative Hall.
Aye.
Representative Hall, aye.
With a vote of 12 in the affirmative and 5 in the negative, the motion does carry. No other business being before the committee?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
If I may just real quick remind members that there will be a Rules Committee meeting tomorrow that I anticipate probably only the State House map being taken up. I don't think there are going to be any other bills right now that move. But I don't anticipate doing amendments in rules, and the reason for that is takes the nonpartisan staff a long time to engross, I think is the correct word, the map such, and for any bill, that we may be delayed in session in the afternoon. So what I would ask members is if you're going to have amendments, save them for the floor. And again, same thing as we did in here that everybody generally did a pretty good job with. Do your best to try to send those to me sometime before, say, 12 o'clock tomorrow. If you got a floor amendment, if we're going to do session at 2, do your very best to send it by 12 o'clock because, I mean, generally, if I get it ahead of time, there's a much greater chance that we might be able to resolve an issue, and maybe it's not exactly the way that that is, the map may not be exactly what we would accept, and we may be able to compromise. So I just ask you to, again, try to send the amendments by 12, and of course, staff needs to have those as well to have those ready for the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Hall. Any other questions for the chairman? Seeing none, we stand adjourned.